It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com from the S.O.T.O release, Inside the Vertigo. The name of that tune is called Wrath. And the guy who's going to lay the wrath down on us, Chris, is probably one of the most underappreciated singers out there in the hard rock and metal world, our good friend Jeff Scott Soto. Welcome back to the Classic Metal Show, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Underappreciated. I hope that doesn't reflect in you guys, too.
No, actually, Chris, and as well as myself, but more Chris, he is like a Jeff Scott Soto worshiper.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And I will just state, for the record, we had our top 15 countdown about a month and a half ago, and Inside the Vertigo was my #1 album of the year, so I am definitely a Soto-ophobe.
That's awesome, man.
You would have been my number one, awesome. Jeff, but somehow Armored Saint just got by you.
Yeah, you know what? I've been competing with that spot with John Bush for years. So,
Well, Jeff, it's good to have you back here on the Classic Metal Show. Chris is very pumped about seeing you here shortly, as a matter of fact, and
yes,
I was looking forward to having you back on the show because it's actually been a couple of years, and we want to find out what's going on with you and bring everybody up to date with your current projects and all that kind of good stuff. So what are you currently working on, or what are you currently promoting?
Well, the short of the long is Inside the Vertigo kind of got buried under a lot of red tape. You know, I was working with a few different managers that we never really got things off the ground. There was never any real campaign or any real program that we set forth when we were promoting the album. Therefore, it kind of got buried under all this protocol, and I felt like the album never really got a chance to be heard or be seen or even be discussed, really. And I said, you know what? Instead of sitting back and crying over the spilled milk, it's time to get back and work. Get back to the studio and crank out another album, but do it the right way this time. I took over management with another buddy of mine, a guy named Chris Hines. You know, he's an up-and-coming budding manager, and we took over the management of the band. We took over all the band business, and we went basically screaming to the label that this is how we want to do it. They said back, this is exactly how it should be done, and we got a brand new album coming out April 1st. The first single was just released yesterday, and it's getting a lot of great response. It was just, we put out a lyric video because we're shooting a real band video with one of the other tunes on Wednesday this upcoming week. So we're really busy. We finally got things on the track that we were supposed to do with Inside the Vertigo, and I think this new album, Divak, is going to definitely turn some heads. I feel it's a stronger album. The material is it's more of a band thing because, as we discussed with Inside the Vertigo, it was a solo album that turned into a band album. This started as a band album, and the band are all on it as far as the writing, the performances, and it's just, everything about it's just badass. It's just slamming.
Sure. Now, Jeff, I've only heard the one song, Freak Show, and so I know that's not a real good snapshot of an album, but taking that snapshot and trying to compare it to stuff that you've done, it kind of reminds me of the first time I heard 21st Century from Beautiful Mess. It's not as straightforward rock, and it's got a lot of different elements to it. Is that kind of the way that you went with the whole record, or is that just one snapshot of many?
It's absolutely one snapshot. And again, S.O.T.O, we're trying to build a brand and obviously we're creating more of or going back more to the harder, edgier rock stuff that people wanted from me for many years.
Sure.
And I'm definitely not letting them down on this one. It's everything I do is melodic, and everybody keeps saying, I wish you'd go back more to the melodic stuff. When I was doing melodic stuff, they said, I wish you'd go back to the heavier stuff. Well, guess what? I've always done heavier stuff that's been melodic and vice versa. This is no exception. It's heavy material, but everything I do is on a melodic sense. Even if I'm just singing it more aggressively or just in a more heavier way, it's always melodic. It's always got something you can sing along to, hum along to, and it's never without those hooks, without those things that let you latch onto. And again, this new album is no exception. Some bits are heavier than the first album. Some bits are more hard rock oriented, but I'm not trying to put a label on us. I just want us to be an aggressive hard rock band that's got power, muscle, and melody, and that's exactly what we were going for on the first album. It's exactly what we're doing on this one.
Sure. Now, do you feel yourself, there's no question a band called S.O.T.O. and featuring you is going to be referred to your back catalog. Having heard Inside the Vertigo, clearly you went a lot heavier than, Damage Control or Beautiful Mess or, all the other stuff, Lost in Translation, etc. There's clearly a different direction. Do you find yourself fighting against your own past to get recognized in the metal world?
Nah, fuck that. At this point in my career, my life, I don't even care about that anymore. Everything's changed and shifted so much in music and how it's done, how it's supposed to be done, how it's expected to be done. I'm just so tired of trying to chase that same real estate that I was chasing for the past 20-some-odd years of my life and career. At this point, I just want it to be good. I want it to be something that I feel solid about, that I feel like it's believable. It's something from inside. I'm not chasing some kind of dream or dragon. This is exactly where I'm at. This is exactly where I want to be, and the guys are right there with me. And it's a true album. I'm not doing it to fulfill what the label wants. I'm not doing it to fulfill what my mother wants me to do. This is what I want to do, and musically, it's exactly where I'm at. I'm not cheating myself. I never really was. But I have. I'll admit, I've done some things in my past to fulfill commitments, to fulfill expectations, and I'm done with that. This is exactly where I want to be, and it's why I'm doing it. I have that outlet now with Ear Music. They're totally behind it, and we've got a really cool game plan of exactly how we want to display it.
Cool. Well, Jeff, in this day and age, with the music business being in the shambles as it is, and a guy like yourself who has a long storied career and so many different avenues, and different styles, what is your favorite style to perform and sing?
Man, there's no real dead set. The problem with the fact of that, when you're looking at the versatility of the different albums, different styles and all that stuff, my problem is I get bored easily if I have to stick with one. And this is one of the reasons why I've jumped around. It's more of a challenge for me to dig into something that I really like that I necessarily hadn't already done. And it even goes towards the whole Trans-Siberian Orchestra thing. I'm not a musical theater guy by any stretch. I'm not into Broadway. I'm not into that whole thing. But doing the TSO thing, doing the rock theater thing, it challenges me to see, hey, you know what, I wonder if I can do that. And if I can do it, and it's believable, and it's something that people actually love, then guess what? I've tapped onto another surface that I wouldn't necessarily chase for myself, and that's why it's difficult to say. Are you more comfortable doing the funkier stuff, the Beautiful Mess kind of thing, or more comfortable doing the neoclassical Ingve thing, or the more AOR Journey kind of thing? The answer is yes to all of the above, because that they're all what make me as a singer, as a performer, as a writer. It's what completes that picture. So yeah, I'm going to take all those influences. I'm going to just put them in a blender and see what happens. And for the most part, that's where the best music comes from. It comes from not thinking, not caring, and just doing what influences you and letting it flow.
Right. Well, from a performance standpoint, I mean, obviously you have no problem getting gigs. You mentioned the TSO and that kind of thing, and we all got to pay the bills and eat. But from a recording standpoint, in this day and age, what is your motivation to record aside from having an artistic outlet? Because everybody that we speak to talks about, well, there's really no money in recording anymore. So what is your motivation?
Well, yeah, the recordings now are exactly what they were even 40 and 50 years ago. They're an opportunity for people to hear your stuff and actually give you a reason to go see you live. Basically, it's all it was. When back in the days when artists were being cheated out of millions in royalties and publishing and all that stuff, they were still able to make a living by performing. Whether it be on tours or whether it be ending up in Vegas as just an entity, as a residency in Vegas or something like that. You had those outlets for people to hear your music, to finally come out and see you, and your live performances is where you made your money, and that's what it's become now. I'm not going to make any money from the albums. I'm not going to make money from these songs. But if I get people to listen to them and give me a chance to actually play in their city, that's where I'm going to be able to make that living. I'm going to be able to pay my bills based on the fact that they heard the music, whether they download it for free, they listen to it on Spotify, or actually buying it like the old-fashioned days. They're going to hear the music and want to actually, they're going to be curious enough to actually want to hear it and see the band live.
Sure. Well, Jeff, since we're talking about the band live, let's talk about that for a little bit, because, I mean, you obviously have, people know who you are. I mean, you have a big history. But people probably don't know, in fact, I know they don't know anything about your band. So talk a little bit about who your band guys are, and more specifically, how you were able to form a band instead of guys that are just around you.
Right. Well, the guys in this particular band, S.O.T.O, they were my backup band for years when I was doing the JSS kind of review. For many years as a solo artist, I would release these kind of hard rock, melodic rock albums, and my touring show would be, I would say, like 60-40. I would be doing mostly nostalgic stuff from my past. It was a mixed bag of nuts, from throwing the Yngwie to the Talisman, to all the stuff in my career into one show. And then, of course, I would promote a couple of the solo items as well. These guys were with me for about 5 years doing that. And when I was working with the person who just basically convinced me to turn this into a band now, or turn the idea of Inside the Vertigo into a band, I went to these guys and I said, you've done this with me. We have a great chemistry and camaraderie already. Do you want to do this with me as a band? Or if you're too busy, if you're not willing to take the risk, you don't want to be hired guns anymore, obviously there's more to gain later, but in the beginning it's going to suck, because now we're going to be splitting it all equally. And when you split it equally, back in the day, if I took a hit, these guys still get paid. They still get their hired gun salaries. But now we're going to take these costs and we're going to share on the expenses, for better or worse. And if you're willing to do that with me, and they all jumped on board without a hesitation. So, it was a no-brainer, and especially when they started giving me material, and it just melded into exactly what you're going to hear on the new album. It's grown so much in the sense of S.O.T.O, the band, more so than it was Jeff Scott Soto with his hired guns.
Sure. Was it difficult for you to give up some of that creative control? Because let's face it, you've had power over everything that you've put out for a long time.
Now, you know what? I always reach out to, whether it's famous friends or others that I really respect as writers and such anyway, when it comes to getting material for an album. It's always been going outside sources. I'm not a guy who sits with a guitar and writes an entire song from soup to nuts. I'm always wanting to get the musical creative outlet from somebody who actually does that better than I would, and then I take it and put my touch to it, whether it be lyrics and melodies and finishing it up on that end. So it was the same process here. It's like, guys, I want you. This is the sound I want. This is what I'm going for. But I want you to create that for me. And they would just start churning stuff out. And we actually had way too many songs on this album to actually put to the side, maybe even for the next album.
Very
just
cool.
Because all the creative juices are there.
Sure, definitely. Now, as I told you in email, I could not have been more excited when I saw that you were playing gigs, and you were playing one that I was actually going to be local to see. Talk a little bit about this tour. You're going around. You're not playing big places. You're playing. You're attacking it like a working new band should. So talk a little bit about that and the frustrations of that. As far as 3 months ago, you're playing in front of 20,000 every time you played. Now it's now you're starting. I don't want to say you're starting over, but you're definitely downgrading from the TSO show.
Well, absolutely, and I don't even do the States normally. This is all new territory for me. The last time I did a little road show was just after my firing from Journey. I took to the road with my then current solo band, and we did maybe 2 weeks worth of dates. And so I'm not known for doing the U.S. because I don't really have a U.S. market. I don't have a U.S. audience except for bits and pieces here. If you rounded them all up in the U.S., I'd probably be able to fill a nice sized theater. But obviously doing my own gigs, I'm worried and scared as hell that anybody will show up. And I'm sure promoters are the same way, and we're all treating it the same way. Let's just do the best we can and get as many people in there that we can get to seeing the shows. But essentially, these shows are warm-up shows for the Monsters of Rock cruise. We have not played together. We played together for years as the JSS thing. We haven't played any of this new material. We haven't done this as a band now, as a unit. And the only way to actually get that down and make sure that we're ready for that in front of thousands of people on a boat where there's no escaping, you're basically going to hide in your cabin the entire time if you suck, is I had to get the band out there and do some shows prior to that. So I said, two of the guys in my band are from Brazil. They introduced me to this promoter also from Brazil who's living stateside here. And he said, dude, I can hook up some warm-up shows for you, and this is exactly what it is. We're kind of just getting the band's feet wet before we go get on a boat and really get our feet wet, if that makes any sense.
Definitely does, man. So for people that don't know and haven't followed along, how long is the tour, and how many shows are you playing before the cruise?
Yeah, sadly, it's too short to call it a tour. I'm calling it a run. It's an East Coast run. I think there's 5 or 6 shows on it at the moment. And to be honest with that, I think that's 3 or 4 more shows than we actually needed. I only wanted 1 or 2 shows just to kind of feel it out and say, okay, we got that out of the way, and now we can go do it on the boat. But by the time we get to the boat, even after 3 or 4 shows, it's going to be slamming. Not to say that the first 2 won't be, but obviously, again, we can rehearse till the cows come home. You get in front of an audience, you get that adrenaline, you get that vibe, that energy, and that electricity in the room. Everything changes. You could be so confident, and at the rehearsal place for 7 hours a day, but you get up on that stage, and one little bulb of electricity changes, and the whole thing adjusts to something you're not used to or ready for. And that's why I want to get the band out there doing this.
Sure. Well, I could tell you'll have 2 people at least in Pittsburgh, because Lord knows when I saw you play, I was like, fucking hey, the first time I can see you play your own stuff, I think ever. I saw you with Journey, whenever that was, 2006 or whatever, but I haven't seen you since. So I'm, for one, am pumped.
Dude, that's awesome. It's 10 years now.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has, Jeff. Well, speaking of Journey, I'm sure you're well aware that Dean Castronovo and Journey kind of imploded and was released from the band, and you did a short time with Journey. Did you have any issues with Dean, or did you notice any kind of quirky behavior with him at the time, or any kind of strange happenings with that guy during your time with them?
Well, everybody has their own issues, their own quirkiness. I mean, Dean he's always, since I've known him, even before Journey, he's always been bouncing off the walls. He's just a really hyper. The guy I saw was always happy, always positive, and always wanting to put a smile on your face. I never saw any demons. I never saw any negative side to him. That's why all of this was shocking to me to see how it all transpired. And not only once but twice. And after the second time, they basically clipped his wings. Whatever I did, whatever the reason why they let me go, I can't imagine was. Clearly, it was way more severe than whatever Dean did, because he got 2 lives to kind of stick it through. I didn't do anything that I can even remember remotely close to that got me fired. I mean, there was not even anything in the press. There wasn't anything that they stated or verbalized as to why I was let go. So it's kind of strange to even to this day to think about it and to even talk about it, because I still don't fucking know why I got fired.
You weren't snorting blow off of Jonathan Cain's wife's tits or anything like that?
No, it was certainly. I mean, that band was not. It wasn't the band that was from the '80s. That's for sure. These guys were. They were just all quiet and have a glass of wine after the show and go their own ways on days off. There was no real hanging and absolutely no partying and none of that. So that whole environment was nowhere to be seen or found when I was in the band.
Sure. I don't want to beat the Journey horse, because that's obviously old territory, but I just got to ask, based on what you just said, and you've said that consistently for years, that you really don't know what really went down. Do you think, or do you even imagine that maybe it was just as simple as management wanting somebody that was more of a Perry clone. And I'm not smashing Arnell. I think Arnell is great, but he is an absolute Perry clone.
Absolutely not, because first of all, management have no say on the creative side of what the band wants. Jonathan and Neil run that band. Let's just get that out of the way right now. They call all the shots of what's going on in the band. They tell management what's going to happen with the band. Management are there basically just to make sure that everything's running smoothly. Irving Azoff was a dream to work with, and in fact, when I was still a hired gun, when Jerry was still officially the singer, it was Azoff that was actually on my side saying, man, this guy, he could take you guys to new heights. He could basically help you escape the ghost of Steve Perry, and you guys be crazy enough to stick with him. So it had nothing to do with management. It had everything to do with it started with Neil and it ended with Neil. So that's all I can really. That's the only information I have as far as what really went down. All the gray matter in between, that's still invisible to me.
Sure. All right, Jeff. Well, we appreciate you taking the time and being open and honest and candid, and we appreciate the fact that you're out there just, keeping your nose to the grindstone, as my dad would say, and, doing what you do best. And, we're looking forward to seeing you out there on the road, even in your limited engagements and whatnot, and looking forward to the new, now how do you say this? Divak? D-I-V-A-K? Divak.
Divak.
What does that mean?
It's a Bulgarian word for savage, wild, like a wild one. Basically, it's dedicated to this little cat, the little alley cat that we found in Bulgaria when we were there last summer. My wife and her kids were downstairs just taking the trash out, and they ran into this little black alley cat. And they do have a stray cat epidemic in Bulgaria, and that's where she's from. They brought the little thing up into the apartment. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What are you doing taking this German-fested alley cat? But the thing was, it was almost like it was domesticated already, because it wasn't wild, it wasn't scared or trying to hurt anybody, whatever. But it wasn't until the stupid us, we decided to bring that cat all the way back to L.A. because we couldn't find somebody to take it. We weren't going to put it back in the street. And now that cat is showing its true Bulgarian street alley cat vibe. It's my wife calls him every time he's scratching or doing something crazy. She calls him Divak, which is a description for the cat at this point. That's why even the front album cover has got a kind of like a Black Panther on it. It's an emulation of this little black alley cat that we found.
Nice.
So it's kind of a weird story, but to me, every time she called him Divak, it sounded like such a strong word, and it actually describes the music on the album that I thought I would put the two worlds together.
So more or less, you named your album after your cat. That's pretty metal.
It's a black cat. Why not?
Excellent, Jeff. Well, again, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us here again on the Classic Metal Show. Where can people find out about Jeff Scott Soto?
Same place, JeffScottSoto.com, Facebook, Facebook.com/Jeff Scott Soto, SotoTheBand.com. It's so easy to find all the information out there. As I said, the album's coming out April 1st. First single, Freak Show, just came out. The second single for a song called Weight of the World that's coming out towards the end of March, just before we hit the road. And we're going to Europe in April, and then we're hitting South America in May with Winery Dogs.
Excellent. Good stuff, Jeff. All right, Jeff, well, as always, you're always a welcome guest back here on the Classic Metal Show. Let's not make it so long next time, okay?
Guys, I can't wait to see you in Pittsburgh.
Excellent. All right, Jeff. Well, we always ask the question before, and we don't ask it anymore. Unfortunately, Lemmy from Motorhead passed away, and that ended our Lemmy question. We never ask the Lemmy question anymore. But do you have any recollections of Lemmy now that he's gone? And we've lost some people here just this year. We got David Bowie gone. I see that. What's his name? Kantner.
Glenn Frey.
Yeah, Glenn Frey. Kantner from Jefferson.
Paul Kantner. Yeah,
Paul Kantner just passed away. I mean, we're losing them right and left. So, any thoughts on any of these people? Did any of them, resonate with you, or were you a fan of any of them, or?
Of course, all of them. I mean, as a musician, as an artist, you've gotten something from every contribution that they're not just famous for who they are as people, they're famous for the contributions they left musically. I mean, who doesn't know Somebody to Love from Jefferson Airplane? Who doesn't know the plethora of songs that Bowie left behind that were just so influential? And of course, Lemmy. I mean, it's the guy is just a metal icon. I don't have any personal Lemmy stories aside of running into him every once in a while at the Rainbow, but I was more close with Mickey D, his drummer, and Mickey and I every time we get a chance to hang out with each other, we just have a blast. But unfortunately, I didn't get to be too close to Lemmy.
Sure. All right, Jeff. All right, well, catch Jeff out on the road and on the Monsters of Rock cruise and all that good stuff, and go visit his website and his Facebook and pick up his new CD in April. And, well, Jeff, what should we end this interview with? You got a song in mind?
Yeah, well, you guys are going to have to play something from the new album, and since you don't have it yet, when we hang up here, I'm gonna have to send it to you so you can do something new for me.
Excellent.
So, let's go with Freak Show.
Okay.
Let's make sure you get a good copy of that, and let's give everybody a taste of what's coming.
Okay. Well, here's brand new Jeff Scott Soto from the Divak. Is it Divak? Divak release, and here's Freak Show.
This is going to be so fun. I'm waiting to hear how everybody says this word.
Well, here it is. It's Freak Show exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.